me by providing you a brief introduction to Java technology. So, what is Java? Java is a programming language which is high level, object oriented, and platform independent. So, what means by saying high level? High level means the programming language is independent of the architecture of the machine, so that we can use in Java programming in any programming machines. It can be used across any machines. It is independent of the hardware. Next thing which you need to mention about Java is platform independent. So platform independent means Java can be used across various operating systems such as Linux, Mac, or Windows. Any of the operating system we can use the Linux. We can use the Java programming language. Next thing which we need to mention about Java is a object-oriented programming language, which means that Java follows the object-oriented principles such as abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism. All these principles are followed by the Java programming language. And next thing which you need to mention about Java is Java was introduced in 1995, and Java's father of Java is also known as James Gosling. And next thing which you need to mention about Java is used across billions of devices. So Java can be used in mobile devices and in Android application development also we will use Java, and we can use Java in any other technologies, server technologies or PCs, servers, everywhere we can use Java. Next thing which you need to mention about Java is according to various surveys as per as 2021, Java is found out to be in top three programming languages. So Java is found in among top three programming languages. Next thing which you need to mention about Java is its slogan: "Write once, run anywhere." So once we write a program in Java, we can run it in any machines. Next, we'll discuss about Java's distributions. So various distributions which are provided by the Java community. The first one is the Java Standard Edition. In this lecture and in this course, we will discuss about Java Standard Edition, which is the standard edition and which is the Java development kit provided by the Oracle JDK community. We will use that feature, and we will throughout this lecture we will be focusing on Java Standard Edition. Next distribution of Java is Java Enterprise Edition, which is used to develop enterprise applications, which is used in servers and web application development. Next thing is you need to mention about Java. Next distribution of Java is Micro Edition. Micro Edition is used in mobile application development. Now let us discuss about Java's various terminologies. So we'll start with JVM. JVM stands for Java Virtual Machine. It is the virtual machine on which our system will execute our program. So the JVM in any device which is able to set up a JVM, in those devices we will be able to run our Java application. So if it is a mobile device or any operating system, any servers or anywhere we are able to set up a JVM, in those JVM we will be able to run our Java application. Next thing which you need to mention is the JDK. JDK is the Java development kit which is provided by the Oracle community in order to develop our code. It consists of tools such as the Java Doc tool, the jar tool, and the Java running tool, Java compiler, all the tools are provided to this using this David JDK development kit, and this kit is available for free for development purposes, but for production purposes it is not free. So let us go to the next topic. Next topic is JRE. JRE stands for Java Runtime Environment. It is a runtime environment in which our Java will be executed. It is a set of JVM. It is consist of JVM and other libraries which supports the execution of our program. The next thing which we need to mention here is the JR Java Archive format. The Java Archive format is a format in which we will be distributing our code. Once we done developing our code, we will package our code into jar files, and then we will distribute this code using jar files. So this jar, in order to run a program or run a external library, we need to import our jar file into our build path. We will explain about build path and jar files in a later lecture. So this is it. Next we will discuss about the Java class loading feature. So the class loading feature is a important feature which we need to understand in Java. So first of all, before understanding class loading, first we'll consider how a program will execute in Java. So first, in order to execute a program, first we need to write a program in .java files. So if Java consists of various features, constructs such as classes, interfaces, annotations, these all will be written into a class file, a .java file, and this .java file will be later compiled using a Java compiler, and then this .java file will be converted into a .class file. This class file also known as bytecode in Java. So this bytecode means .class file, and later this bytecode will be converted into machine code with the help of a compiler, a running interpreter. So this is how a Java program will execute, and the class loading process happens when these classes which we written in the Java files is loaded into the memory. This process is called as the class loading process. Now let us discuss about the tools which are required for Java development. So the first and the foremost tool which is required is the JDK. JDK can be downloaded from the Oracle website or the OpenJDK community website, and it consists of all the libraries and the tools which are required for the developing of our code. So that is it for JDK. And now once you download, I will provide the link for downloading the JDK from the Oracle website. Now next discuss about the various integration development environments which are provided, which are commonly known as IDEs. These IDEs provides us with lots of features such as code completion, auto import. All those features are available in the IDEs. So in this tutorial, we will be focusing on Eclipse IDE, and I will be providing a link to download this Eclipse from their repository. Next, we will discuss about other IDEs also. The other IDEs such as IntelliJ IDEA and NetBeans IDE. These IDEs are also provided, also has a lot of features, and I will prefer to use Eclipse IDE in this tutorial, but you can use any IDE to develop code. It is not necessary that we need to IDE also. Sometimes we can use the Notepad or Notepad++ software to develop our code, but the process of auto import and packaging our application and project structure, all the problems will come. So we'll be preferring to use a IDE in order to save our time and allow us to develop more code in a standard way. So thank you for watching this video. We will continue with the next lecture. Thank you. Hello and welcome to the lecture 2 of this session. And in this lecture, we are going to discuss about Java's different versions and each version's key features. So let us start. So the first one we need to mention is the Java version 1, which was introduced in 1996 January, and its key features include AWT in event model, which means AWT is a graphic user interface which allows us to have buttons, combo boxes, everything in our code. We will discuss about it later. Next thing which we need to mention here is inner classes. Inner classes means Java has all the code in classes, and these classes can be having nested option. So these nested option classes are called as inner classes in Java. So that feature was introduced in one. And next thing is meant to mention is the JDBC. JDBC stands for Java Database Connectivity, and it was feature was introduced in one. Next thing which we need to mention here is the RMI, remote method invocation. Remote method invocation was introduced in this version, which is allows us to invoke methods from remote location. Next thing which you need to mention here is the JIT, just-in-time compiler, which was introduced in the version 1. Now let us discuss about the version 1.1, or commonly introduced in February 1997. The key features include Java database connectivity, which means it will be able to connect to different databases using this Java connectivity tool. Next thing is to mention is the math class. Math class provides all the mathematical operations and trigonometric operations. Everything is allowed in this math class. So we can, with the help of the math class, we can do the development. So there will be a lecture on the math class separately. So we will continue with this in this section. So next thing which we need to mention in this is enhanced IO packages. So the enhanced IO means input output operations. Input output operations was enhanced in 1.1 version. Now let us discuss about the 1.2 version. So the 1.2 version was released on December 1998 and its key features include servlets. Servlets means the server related technologies which will allow us to have server side code which is used in Java web development. We will not cover this topic in this tutorial. And next thing which we need to mention is Java 2D. Java 2D is has an package which allows us to have graphical operations such as drawing a circle, drawing a rectangle. All those operations can be done using Java 2D. Next thing which we need to mention is Java Swing. Swing is a enhanced user interface, graphic user interface, which was enhanced after AWT. So after AWT, which was introduced in 1.1, this is the 1.0, which was the Swing was introduced in 2 and it was enhanced to have more graphical interface features. Next thing which we need to mention here is the Javadoc templates. Javadoc means if you write a code, we need to have some documentation to the code. So to provide the documentation, Javadoc was introduced in 1.2. Next feature is collections. Collections are the set of to interfaces and classes which allows us to have complex data structures in our program. Next, we will have discuss about Java 1.3. This was introduced in May 2000 and the key features include JNDA, Java Naming and Directive Interface. Next thing is Java Sound, and last one is the program Java Platform Debugger Architecture. So these all the key features introduced in 1.3. Now let us discuss about Java version 1.4. So it was introduced in February 2002. The key features include assert keyword. Assert keyword is a keyword which is used to have assertions in Java. Assertions means if you want to check for a particular validation condition and throw a particular error, we can use assertions, and assert keyword is used for that purpose. Next thing which we need to mention is regular expressions. Regular expressions provides a way to check for particular expressions in a string. We can use it for validating a string and removing particular elements from string. All this can be done using regular expressions. Next thing which we need to mention is exception chaining. Exceptions can be chained in Java. So this was introduced in Java version 1.4. Next thing which you need to mention here is the new IO feature. New IO means the enhanced version of IO, and non-blocking IO was introduced in Java version 1.4. Now let us discuss about Java version 1.5. It was introduced in September 2004 and its key features include generics. Generics means it brings the generic programming in Java. It allows us to type to be passed as parameter in Java. This is a cool feature which allows us to have generic methods and generic classes. We will discuss about this in the generic section of our tutorial. Next thing which we will need to mention is enhanced for loop. Enhanced for loop allows us to iterate over a particular collection with more easily accessible form. For loop is available in Java, but the enhanced for loop is a new enhanced version which was introduced in 1.5. Next thing which you need to mention is auto boxing unboxing features. So Java has some primitive data types. So in order those primitive data types to be used in object concept, we have to use auto boxing concept. Auto boxing and unboxing will be explained later in this tutorial. Next thing which you need to mention is the enums. Enums are a set of values which we can give, and we can declare those similar values. For example, dates of a month. or days of a week. These can be considered to be as enums. Next thing which we need to mention here is static import. Static import allows us to import static methods into static members into a class, which we will discuss in the later lecture. Next thing which you need to mention is var args. Var args means variable arguments. So in Java we can have a there are some types of parameters which are called as var args, which allow us to have multiple set of parameters as passed to a method. Next thing which we need to mention here is annotations. Annotations are provides metadata to our code. It allows us to have specific metadata information about code, so that we can use this code information to process our class or interface or anything method, anything we can process in a different way. It is used in framework design and everything. So next we will discuss about Java version 1.6. 1.6 was released on December 2006. Its key features include Java WS Web Services, JDBC enhancement of JDBC to JDBC 4.0. Next feature was pluggable annotations. Now let us discuss about the next version of Java 1.7, which was introduced in July 2011, and its key features include binary literals. Binary literals allows us to have binary values to be assigned to integers and all, with a special symbol and a binary notation. Next thing which we need to mention here is strings in switch case statement. So in switch statements, which is available in all other languages also, Java also have switch statement. So in the switch statement, we can give a string as a literal. That is a new feature was introduced in 1.7. Next feature which is introduced in JDK 1.7 is try with resources. So try with resources is a feature which allows us auto closable resources will be there in Java. So there are some resources such as scanners and readers. These resources can be auto closed. So this resource try with resource was a new and feature which was introduced in 1.7, which allows us to safely closing those resources automatically. Next feature is JVM multiple exception handling. So this feature is introduced in Java 1.7, which allows us to have a pipe symbol and catch those multiple exceptions one by one in a single line. So this allows us to have a good compact code for exception handling. Next thing which you need to mention here is the underscore literals. Underscore literals allows literals to be having an underscore in their declaration. So if a long number is there, so we want to separate those numbers by keeping an underscore. Java allows us to have underscores in literal values. So we'll explain this in the coming lecture. Now let us discuss about Java version 1.8. It was introduced in March 2014. The key features include a Lambda expression. Lambda expression is a functional programming construct which was introduced in Java version 1.8. We will discuss about Lambda expressions in our following tutorial. Next, we will discuss about functional interfaces. Functional interfaces are interfaces in Java with a single abstract method. We will discuss about this in the functional programming lesson in our tutorial. Next, we will discuss about this method reference. Method reference also is a syntax which allows us to shorten the lambda expressions. We will explain about method reference in the functional programming tutorial. Next, we will need to mention is default methods in interfaces. In Java 8, default methods was allowed into interfaces. And next thing which we need to mention is the Stream API. Stream APIs allows us to have process and aggregate collections in very fast manner. We will explain about this in the Streams API lecture. Next we need to discuss is Java version 1.9, which was introduced in September 2017. It is bring about a big change in Java community. The first thing what was Java platform module system was introduced, which divided everything into modules. Java previously was not modularized, so after 1.9 everything was modularized. Next thing which you need to mention is JSL was introduced in 1.9. JSL is a read-evaluate print loop, which means we can write our code in a single IDE editor and we can directly run and get the result from there only directly. So this is the feature is available in all other languages. Java introduced it in 1.9. Next thing which you need to mention is collection factory methods. Next thing which is Java HTTPS 2.0. So this is a new feature which has introduced which allows HTTP clients to be having in our code. We will explain this in the HTTPS section of the tutorial. Next we need to mention is process API enhancements. So process API enhancements means there is a process API which was previously available. So it was enhanced in the Java version 1.9, which allows more methods in the process API. Now let us discuss about Java version 1.10, 1.10 or 1.10. So next the version was introduced in March 2018. Key features include local variable type inference. So this allows us to have a new keyword which is called as var. This keyword allows us to declare variables without mentioning their type. This is a new feature which was introduced in Java version 10. Next thing which you need to mention here is unmodifiable collections which was introduced in 1.10. So these unmodified collections means these collections, for example, unmodified list is there. So list dot of a method is introduced in Java 1.0 which allows us to have collections without a feature of not a modifiable feature. Next thing which you need to mention here is garbage collection enhancements. So garbage collectors are certain tools which allows us to recover memory when while executing a program. Dereferenced objects will be collected back. This there was an enhancement for these garbage collectors in Java in 1.10. Next version we need to discuss is Java version 11. So it was introduced in September 2018. We can see that after every 6 months Java started releasing after JDK 9. So in this version was released in September 2018. So every 6 months there was a release of Java since after that. So now let us see the key features of Java 11. The first feature which was introduced was running Java file with a single command. Next feature which was introduced was new utility methods in the string class. So string class added new methods. Next feature which was is local variable syntax for type lambda expressions. So these are the new features which was introduced in Java 11. Next we will discuss about Java version 12. So this was introduced in March 2019. Key features include switch expressions, which means previously switch statements was there. Switch expressions is much more compact form of switch, which allows us to have arrow notation in switch. Also has introduced a new keyword called as yield keyword, which is also introduced in JDK 1.12. And next feature we need to mention is JVM constants API, which was introduced in 12. Next feature, which is garbage collector enhancements. So new garbage collector enhancements were proposed in Java version 12. Next the version which we need to discuss is Java version 13, which is released on September 2019. Key features include enhancements for switch expressions. So enhanced switch expressions was enhanced in this version, and which was released in last version. There was a changes in the new version. So next thing which is text blocks. Text blocks allows us to write multiple lines of code, string literals in Java. So if we have a more than one line of string literal, we can use text blocks to represent it. Next thing which is introduced is renewed socket APIs. So socket for the communication client was enhanced in this version of Java. Now let us discuss about Java version 14. It was introduced in Java in 2020 March, and the key features include pattern matching for instance of operation. So instance of method was is operator was there, and in this operator previously we have to cast and everything we have to do. typecasting, everything. Though this is reduced in Java version 14. Next thing which you need to know is helpful null pointer exceptions. And next thing which is introduced is Java records. Records are certain feature a new construct which was introduced in 14, which allows us to have an data collection which will allow a data class which will allow us to hold some variables. For example, if you want to create a person and have person data, so this allows us to have a person data which is unmodifiable, and which is which also has some getters and setters and all provided by the Java compiler. So we don't need to create our own code and make it complex. So this records allows us to have a key cool feature. Next thing which you need to mention here is switch expressions standardized. So switch expression was standardized in Java 14. Next which feature which you need to discuss is Java 15, which was introduced in September 2020. Key feature include records. Records was standardized. The next thing which you need to mention is collections and garbage collector enhancements. So garbage collectors was enhanced in 15th version. And next thing is sealed classes in preview feature. So sealed classes which allows us to have sealed classes and restrict the inheritance. So this feature we will discuss in the coming lecture. Next feature which we need to discuss is text block. So text block means that we already discussed. This was standardized in this version. Now next version of Java is Java 16, which is released on March 2021. Key features include language enhancements. Language level enhancements was introduced. And the next feature is mm, improved memory management. So memory management Java internals was improved. So next feature is new packaging tool. So new packaging tool was introduced. Next thing which you need to mention is pattern matching for instance of was standardized in Java version 16. Next thing which we need to discuss is Java version 17. So this was released on September 2021. The key features include enhanced pseudo random number generator. So random number generator code was being enhanced. And next feature which is deprecated the applet API. So applet API was there previously, which was old version of Java, which is deprecated, which means it is removed from the Java version 17. Next, it is deprecated, sorry, and it will be removed later. And next thing which you need to mention is pattern matching for switch. So in switch statements we will have pattern matching, like for pattern matching for instance of pattern matching for switch statements was introduced. So in this series, in this lecture we will have discussed about the various versions of Java and how each versions bring up a lot of changes. It is very difficult to understand every changes and every remember everything. So this lecture you may not fully understand, but later in this after watching the entire series you can rewatch this video and you will understand little more which matter. So this is it for Java version history. Thank you for watching. Hello and welcome back, and in this lecture 3 we will discuss about Hello World program. So how to write a simple Hello World program is will be covered in this session. So we'll start with the theoretical aspects which are required for writing a Hello World program. Before that, I need to tell you that I had provided the download links for Eclipse IDE as well as the Oracle JDK. So please download those softwares. Once you download the software, so please install it. Use the default settings whichever it is prompting, and don't change any settings. So once you downloading and installing, and please feel free to ask any questions regarding the downloading and installation procedure if any arises. And next we will go for the theoretical aspects which are required for this writing the Hello World program. So the first thing which we need to do is create a Java project. So we will create a Java project in Eclipse, and then after that creating a Java project we need to create a package. Package allows us to collect the classes, and we will use the packages throughout this session, throughout this tutorial to organize our classes. So next thing which we need is a class. We need to declare a class in Java. Everywhere we can see classes. Everything will be constructed of classes. So we'll have a class, and in the class we will have a main method. In main method will be our main point of execution, where we will run the main method to execute our code. So that is the theoretical aspects. Inside the main method, we will also write the system.out.println, which is a call to the system out printer, and we will print the hello world message in the command line. Command line. So that is it for the theoretical aspects. Now we will see the practical for this video. Hello and welcome to the session of creating a Hello World program in Java. So we can see that this Eclipse IDE, once you launch the Eclipse IDE by selecting a workspace, this Eclipse IDE will look like this. So there will be no projects created. So we want to create a project. So press the create a new Java project option in the left of your screen. Once you pressed it, you can see the project name. It will asking for project name. So once you get the project, type in the project name, it will allow us to create a new project. So I created a new project and press enter. It will prompt for creating a module. So press that also. So the module will be created, and the module info file will be opened automatically. So this is the basic how to create a project in Java. Now let us close this module descriptor file which is not required. So we'll go to and close the module descriptor file. I'm zooming in and close it. So now we can see in the left side there is a package explorer. If the package explorer doesn't appear for you, just go to window, show view, and click on the package explorer. Then automatically the package explorer will be shown in the left side. So once you get the package explorer, we can zoom in on it. There is an src folder is there inside the project structure. So in the src folder, we will create our first package. So right click on the src and go to new package. Once you go into the package, we will write our package name, which is com dot. So that is the class name, package name. So once we created the package name, press enter. Now if you go to the left of your screen, you can see our packages has been created. New package name has been came under the src folder. So right click on the package and create a new class. New class. So the class name we will give class name we will give. The class name will start with a capital letter for all standards. We will follow that standard. Now press enter. So the class is been created. So in this class, we will write our main method for execution. So we will go to the after the class we will write the main method. Type in main and plus control space and enter. So the main method will be created for you. So we will write our first system.out.println message here in the main method. You have to just type syso and press control space. Automatically the system.out.println will be the coming, and we have to click on this, and we have to write hello world. So once you return the hello world, save that file once control S, and then you have to fire it up and run the program. Control F11. So the output has came. So that is it for this session. I will not explain every program like this. This is for an introduction for how to create a project. So for this lecture, I will be just focusing mainly on how the logic of the program flows. I will be explaining by writing already written code. I will explain throughout the series so that people can understand much more fastly. I can explain it within minutes. If you write every single program, it will take a lot of time and it will take a lot of difficulty to follow this lecture. So I will be just explaining the code in most of the sessions. So thank you for watching this lecture. Please continue watching further lectures. Hello and welcome to another lecture. In this lecture, we will go through Java program structure. So how the Java's program structure will be there, we will explain in this tutorial. So let's start. So the program structure, the first thing which we need to understand about any programming language is its semantics and its syntax. So syntax means the how we will write our code, and semantics means its meaning. So the meaning of what we are writing, that is the semantics, and the syntax means how we will write our code. So Java has is a C style language in which the coding is similar to C program, but there are many differences in the way we will write our programs. So the first thing, another thing we need to learn about the program structure is the indentation. Indentation means the spacings which we will provide after the method declaration or anything, a variable declaration. This is which is preferred that you can use any different style of indentation, but the important thing is the readability of our code. If we provide too much space and if you don't put new lines, then it will be difficult for people to understand the code. So it's not a must that you should follow a particular indentation pattern, but it should be code should be readable and understandable, so that we should follow some kind of indentation rules. Next thing which we need to talk about is blocks. So Java consists of blocks. Mostly all the code will be in blocks. So every block will start with a brace and end with a brace. So we can easily identify a block by opening bracket and the closing bracket, and the contain it will contains information in the block. So the blocks are a lot of different types of blocks are there. Static blocks are there, instance blocks are there, and many different blocks are there. So to identify that, identifying it will be the most important part. We have to write our code in the blocks, and we have to follow the indentation rules also. And next thing which we need to understand is the class names index. So class names you seen in the example of the first example video, we created a hello world program. In that, H and world w was capital, so that if any class names you want to create, we have to define it in such a way that it should be start with a capital letter, and if any other words comes in the class name, that also should be capitalized. Rest of the word letters should be in small letters. So that is the syntax for class declaration. Next thing is the variable names. So in Java we follow a lower camel case in which the letters will start with small letters, and if any word comes, that first letter of the word will be capitalized. So that is the syntax for creating variables in Java. So in this program structure we are going through the basic structure of the code, and we will go through with some more examples in the practical session of this video. Thank you for watching now. Hi and welcome to the practical session of this program structure class. And in the program structure, we will go through the program for adding two numbers. So there is simply you want to add two numbers. So in the you know that I have put a main method initially before a function. So the point is that the main function will be the first invoked when we run or compile our code. At that time main method will be invoked, and the function or anything is there, we can put it above the main method or outside the main method, below, anywhere we put. When we invoke that method, at that time it will automatically call that method. So we don't need to worry about the placement of the method. It can be above the main method or below the main method. So here you can see I have created an initialized two variables a and b and provided it with some values, and I am using a method called as system.out.printf. Printf means it is a more useful form of printing the elements. Here we can pass the type of that element. For example, percentage d means digit, so the digit two digits added together and giving another digit, so we will pass those in the printf method. So that is the use of the printf method. So now we can see the method body of the sum method. So the sum method has two parameters which is called as a and int b, and I'm just returning the sum of the two numbers. So that is the program structure for the simple addition of two numbers in Java. You will see more complex programs. So this is just a next step after the hello world program. So let us run this program to see the output. So the output has came correctly, and that is it for this program. Now let us see a program to print the factorial of a number. So this factorial of a number is a program. We know that factorial of a number is, for example, if for a factorial of 4 is 1 into 2 into 3 into 4. So like that the factorial will be calculated in mathematics. So we will be focusing on writing a simple program using a construct called as recursion. We can use a recursion technique to do this logic of printing the factorial of number. So let us see the program. So we'll start with a method called as factorial. So this method will take a parameter n, which is the number which we need to find the factorial of. So the first thing which we need to do is write an if block. If blocks are available in Java, which will be really useful to write the conditional logic. And if inside the if block, first we will write is we'll check whether the number is equal to 1, equal to 0. Number equal to 0, that means 0 factorial. The 0 factorial will return it as 1. So the execution of the program will stop after the 0. Next thing we need to do is for other conditions other than 0, the loop should execute, the condition should execute, and for that we will write return n star factorial of n minus 1. So that will what will happen is it will recursively call that same function again and again until the n becomes 1, n becomes 0. So at the when n becomes 0, the return value will be 1, and our multiplication will be ending at that time. So this will be work like a stack in Java. Internally, there will be a stack to maintain the function calls, and it will be placed there, and it will be one by one. These method calls will be put over one of the other. Once the it reaches the zeroth element, it will calculate the value as 1, and after that it will calculate the 0 plus 1. Like that, it will calculate the entire factorial of for us. And in the main method, I am written just a code to print the particular factorial of the number using the printf method, which we discussed in the previous example. So let us run this program to see the output. So the output has came as 24, and that is it for this lecture on program structure of Java. So in this lecture, we learned about how we can write the program structure in Java, and we learned about two programs, different types of programs, and how we can write some conditional logic also using if block we learned, and we will explain about if blocks and all the things in the later lecture. And thank you for watching. Please continue watching the series. Thank you. Hello and welcome to the lecture on literals and keywords. So in this lecture, we are going to discuss about literals and keywords. So first we will discuss about literals. So what is literals? Literals means those variables, those values which we will assign to our particular variables. So it will happen in the right hand side of our equality or equation operator. Whenever we equate some variable to a particular number or number, that number will be called as literal. So there are different types of literals in Java. So the Boolean literal is there, and the numeric literals are there, and string literals are there. So we'll start explaining about one by one. The first one is rules for literals. The rules for literals are like literals should not have any dots, and literals should be, if for example numeric literals are there, then it should follow some standards of IEEE standards, and Java is standardized like that. And next thing which we need to mention is the binary literals which is allowed in Java. So binary literal syntax is allowed in Java, which means we can assign a binary value into a particular variable using the binary literal syntax. We'll explain about this in the practical session. Next thing which is need to understand is the underscore in literals. So this was introduced later in Java, which allows underscore to be having in literals in numeric literals. So in numerical literals we can separate it. For example, if it is a big million number, 1 million or 2 million number, we want to separate the zeros, so we can use underscore to separate between the zeros and make our number much more readable. So that is the literal for underscore literals. Now let's discuss about local variable type inference syntax in Java. So this was introduced in Java laterally, and this syntax means we can have variables without any type. Without declaring the type, you can use a var keyword to declare the variable. So we will discuss about this in the practical session. Now let us discuss about keywords in Java. So keywords means each keyword have specific meaning in Java. Usually 90% of the keywords will have specific meanings, and it can be used on specific context only. And for example, keywords we seen in the first LOL program, we have defined the main method like public static void main. So this public static and void, these are all called as the keywords. So these are individually keywords. You can see this, that keywords will have only small letters in and all the keywords have small letters and in them. So we cannot use the keywords as our variable names. That is also a compulsory point in we need to understand. So without we cannot use variable names with the name of keyword. So that is it for this session. We will see the practical for these two topics. Thank you. Now let us see a program for literals in Java. So initially I have declared main method, and main method I have put an integer and we allocated it a integer numeric literal integer literal, and then we have declared a double, and double I have given a double value double literal, and for next there is a binary literal. We can see that 0b. I will start the binary literal with 0b followed by the zeros and ones of the binary number which I want to allocate to the particular variable. Next thing which we need to have is the underscore literal. Underscore means we can keep a particular underscore in our literal, so that the reading of that particular number will be easy. While running this code, this underscore will be removed and the number will be represented as numeric value only. So we'll see this in while seeing the output how the numbers will come. And next the final one is the with a variable type inference. Type inference means we can have local variables with a type inference. Without any type we can give just var, and followed by it we can give a particular literal, and it will automatically calculate what type it is and it will allocate that particular type. So let us see the output for this to understand the code. So the output X came. So for each literal, if the values has been printed. We can see for underscore literals, the underscore is removed. For binary literals, the binary value is calculated and it is assigned to the particular number. So that is it. We'll see in another program. Now let us discuss about some other types of literals, which are string literal, character literal, and Boolean literal. So character literal, you can see it is having only in single quotes we have to declare the character. It is only length 1, so we can have only a single letter of characters. Also we can use the Unicode notation by slash u. We can give the particular number Unicode value also, that is also acceptable by the character literal. Next thing is the string literal. String literal, you can see initially the string literal will have double quotes, and inside double quotes we can give any values. If you want to have a new line operator, we can use slash n, and escape characters are followed by the slash. So we can use the slash as a escape character in Java. So that is the string literal. Now next last we will discuss about boolean literals. Boolean literals will either have two values only, true or false. It's like a bit which will have either true or false values. Now let us run this program to see the output. So the output has came as per expected. We can see all the literal values are printed. Now in this session we have seen through the program how we can write literals in Java. There are different kinds of literals. We need to understand each literal, and without knowing literals we cannot properly write our code. So we understood about the literals in Java, and different types of literals also we explained. So thank you for watching this video. We'll continue with another topic in the next lecture. Thank you. Hello and welcome to another session. In this lecture, we will discuss about packages and import. So we had seen in the initial Hello World program, we had created a package, and then we had used our program. So we can see that packages can be created manually by clicking on our source folder and creating a package. These packages are we will discuss in this tutorial, in this lecture, and also the import feature in Java also we will discuss. So the first we'll start with packages. So packages in Java is used to collect and is used to group related constructs together to a single unit. So if there are multiple classes and interfaces, and there are some other features which are available in a particular file group, and in these are related, so we want to group all these related things together to form a single package. So the package is contains all the classes and other constructs. So that is the packages. Now let us discuss about the we can control the access to the particular elements in a package. So if we keep it in a package, it will be not discoverable from other unit of compilation. And packages also are very helpful in organizing our code. We will discuss about the advantages of packages in the next section. And beyond to another thing which we need to understand about the packages is the naming convention related to packages. So packages are named usually following by the inverse of the domain name of the system. So if you have a website name is david.com, we will write the package of that com.david like that inverse domain name. So we will discuss about the advantages of packages in this section. So advantages of packages. The first advantage is makes related types easier to find. So if you group these all types together into a single unit, if you do search for a particular file or particular class, it is very easy to access if it is kept in a package. So we know that a particular class related classes will be, for example, if IO related operations we want to find out a class, so we have to search only in the IO folder, IO package, you will able to find that particular class. The next thing which is we need to understand is advantage is avoiding naming conflict. For example, if we have multiple names, if you keep it in the same package, it will have a conflict. But if other packages are there with the same name, we can have. So it will allows us to have reuse the names, class names, extra, etc. in a much more easier way. So that is another advantage. Next advantage is restricting the access. So through packages we can restrict the access of the our code. Next we will discuss more features of Java packages. Packages contain, to create a package we have to use the package name followed by, for example, if you want to create a package in code, we have to write package name followed by package followed by the package name which we want to create as the first line of our Java file. So we have to keep the folder structure and as well as the file, the package name. It is usually in IDEs, it is not much a problem because automatically the IDE will generate you the package constructed by itself, so you don't need to worry about that. Next thing which we need to understand about packages is, if you don't give any package and start writing a class, a default package will be automatically created for you, and there are some restrictions to this default packages which will not cover much. Now let us discuss about the import feature of Java. So for example, any programming language, if you want to include a particular libraries which are written in another file, we want to use some construct. So in Java, import is used to bring these libraries and other files from other place to our present file. So to do that, we have to write an import statement followed by the name of the fully qualified name of the particular class. This important thing to understand here is, if you want to have use external libraries and there they have, for example, it is in a jar file, then we need to include it into the build path of our project in Java project, and then we have to use it. So that is how we can use the import statement. Next we want to discuss is imports, how we can also avoid imports in some scenarios. For example, if we want to only one line we want to write of a particular file or particular class, so we can use the fully qualified name, class name. For example, if an array list is a class in Java, we can use a com.util.array list in order to avoid the import feature of direct import. So we can use the fully qualified class name instead of it. Next, we need to discuss is about static imports. Static import was introduced laterly into Java. Static import imports static members into our code. So, for example, static members means which are depend upon the class of the particular object class, and it will be static members means it is static to the particular class. So, we will discuss about static members when the static part of the lesson tutorial will come. And for now, let us see the practical for this section. Thank you. Now let us discuss about a program which has an import feature. So here you can see I am importing java.util.array list into the program. In first line we can see this is can be automatically imported by hitting the control space in Java. While writing the array list, we can write controls plus control space if you type, then automatically that particular array list will be imported. And we can see I'm just putting three values into the array list and just printing it out. So this is how we can write import statement in Java. Import statements are very useful to, we need to check the if there is any import which is not working, it will show us yellow color. That means that import is not used by the particular class. If initially if you write some programs, you can see if you import wrongly, it will come into the top. We can organize import using some special keyword keys in Java also in Eclipse, and we have to organize our imports. We should not have unnecessary imports in our code. And now this is it. We will run this program to see the output. So here you can see the output has came. The particular array list will have hold the particular values of the particular orange and apple and banana. These three values have been printed. Thank you for watching. Now we'll see then another example. Now let us see a program for static import in Java. Here you can see I am importing a static member, import static, and followed by the particular name of the particular field which I want to import. We can use the star operator to import if you want to import all the static members to a particular file. We can use that also. And here we can see that I am just printing the particular static member value, and also I am printing a random number. A random number is accessed using the class name. The static methods cannot be accessed like without their class name. So we have to use the class name. Now let us see the output for this. For this. So here you can see the both the values has been printed, and the pi value is printed as well as the value of the random number is printed. Thank you for watching. Now we'll see you in another program. Now let us discuss about a program using the fully qualified class name. So here you can see I am importing a class called as ArrayList, and in this ArrayList I am using the fully qualified class name. So your java.util.arraylist. So the util is a package in which ArrayList will be a class, and here I am importing the particular class, and after importing the class I am adding the particular three values into that particular value into the class. So that the array list is a data structure which is very useful. We will discuss about array list when we go to the collection lesson. For now, we will think like it is a data structure which will hold some values. So here in this example, I am putting three values into the array list and then just printing out the values to show you that how the fully qualified class name can be used. Here you can see there is no import for this program. Only there is a fully qualified class name. So thank you. Now we will see the output. So the output has came, whatever value is put in the vehicle array list, it is been coming out. And now thank you for watching this session and this lecture. And in this lecture, we are going through the different types of imports. And in this imports, we can see that it is very important to know that imports are very important. It allows other classes to be used in our code. It allows other libraries also to be added, and we have to use import statements if there is some errors in our code. Sometimes if we import a particular class, the error will go. So we have to understand about imports. Now thank you for watching this video. I will come with another lecture. Thank you. Hello and welcome to the section on Java modules. So we'll introduce you to about Java modules in Java. So what is modules? Modules was introduced in Java 9 as called as Java Platform Module System, and it is also called as modularity in Java. So this feature is like it provides us an aggregation over packages, and so that it makes our code easily accessible and have a strong encapsulation over the code. So encapsulation means we will be able to bind our code and related packages together into single units so that will be able to distribute our code and write more efficient code. So that is the purpose of modules. Now we'll discuss about the modules, other key feature of module. So modules as a group of dependent packages, and it is for example there are 4 or 5 packages which we have similar functionality, and they are using each other, and they are accessing each other members. So we can group these packages into forming a module. So before Java 9 there was only packages and some access modifier keywords to restrict the access to members of a class. So after Java 9 we will got the modules in which we can restrict the access to the package using modules. We will discuss about that in the further part of the video. Next thing which we need to mention about the modularity is modularity not only ensures a strong relationship with the packages and classes, it also allows the resources to be modularized. So for example, if you have resources such as XML file and property file or images, these resources can be also modularized so that only the required modules can access those resources. Before Java 9, what we will do is we will keep all the resources in the root folder, and we will try to access from the root folder path. So that was reduced, and this relationship is now strongly encapsulated with the introduction of Java 9 modules. Now let us discuss about module descriptor in Java 9. So module descriptor. So we have noticed that when we create hello world program or other programs, we have noticed that there is a file which is called as module info.java, which is being created on the root folder, which is src folder or the root folder of our package of our project, and this file is called as the module descriptor. So the module descriptor consists of many things which we can define, and this is very helpful in restricting the module, and we can have a lot of features such as the first one is the module name. So we can define a module name inside the module descriptor file, and the module name can have dots and the name of the file, name of the module. It can be either inverse domain style as we declare the packages, or we can have a project style declaration where we'll place the dot in between the name. So both the type are allowed, but the dashes and other symbols are not allowed in the name. Next thing which you need to mention is dependencies. So in module descriptor we can use add dependencies and make make our module depend upon other modules also. So next feature which we need to discuss is public packages. So we can make our packages. By default what happens is when you introduce a module, the all the packages will be private by default, so no one can access the package from the outside the module. So we can make our packages public also using modules. And next thing which we need to mention is the service offered and service consumed. We can also define the services. For example, we will have a particular service, so we can define that service offered and service which we can consume also in the module descriptor file. Next thing which is the reflection permissions. So we can have reflection means an ability to access the code from runtime. So for example, if there is a class which is in a one package, so we can access the classes private members using the reflection API code. We will discuss about the reflection API when the reflection API section will come. So for now we think like that this modules allows us to have a reflection permissions from one module to another module. So this allows us to design framework and other features very easily without making complex problems. So now let us discuss about various module directives. So what are directives? Directives means a set of commands which we can provide in our module descriptor in order to achieve certain functionality. So in module descriptor file we will discussed earlier. In that file we can put certain directives so that our modules will have certain features. So the first directive we will discuss is request. So if we add a request directive in our module, then that module depends upon other module. So request followed by the module name, we can add more modules which are required. And next one is request static. So in this case what happens is in the previous one request case, we will add the compile time as well as runtime dependencies to our code. But in case of request static, only the compile time dependencies will be added, so that the runtime dependencies will not be added into the code. So that is the request static. Next one is request transitive. So if there is a transitive dependency, for example, one dependency is depending upon another and the another one requires the another dependency. So in that case, there is a transitive relationship. In that case, we can use the transitive directive to make that relationship. Next thing which you need to mention is the exports directive. Exports directive is used to expose our API to the entire world. So if you write exports a pack followed by a package name, so that this package will be exposed to the entire world. So we can access the members of this package in other modules. Next one is exports to. So exports to will be, we want to restrict our exporting feature and the packages to set of modules. So we can use the exports to restrict that feature. Next set of module directives are users means a service provider will be there. We can consume our services using users. We will not discuss much about this directive, but it is important to know that this directive exists. Next feature is consumes provides, sorry, provides means a service provider will be there. For example, an interface or an abstract class that will be defined inside the service provider. and we can consume the other service from the other service provider from other modules. So this feature is there in Java 9 modules. Next feature is open. Open means this if you want to open our module for allowing reflection to other modules. So for example, if there is a module with a class package and that package has a class, so we want to expose that class and make that class reflectionable to other modules. So that feature can be provided by using the open directive. So open directive allows reflection to be happen on the modules. Next one is opens. Opens means opens mean like open specific packages. Instead of if you use open, we'll expose entire module. So we want to expose only a specific set of package. We can use opens keyword, opens directive. Next one is the opens two. So opens two will restrict our open feature to a set of modules so that these modules will only able to do the reflection of our code. So now let us summarize this session. In this session, we seen about modules, what are modules, and what are the module descriptor, and what are the various module descriptors, directives. Sorry, and we are going through these modules. In these further examples, we will go through some of the classes. We will use this module descriptor file to add dependencies to our existing module, such as XML dependencies and java.net dependency. This will be added in our further lessons. So at that time we will be able to understand what is module descriptor and how we can add the dependencies to the module descriptor. So thank you for watching. Please continue watching this session. Thank you. Now, in the final section of the first section, we will discuss about comments. So, what are comments? Comments are certain messages which we will write in our code so that people later down the line they will be able to understand the code. So, comments can be classified into three types in Java. First of all, is the line comments. Line comments means we can write in the same line we of the particular operation. If there is a particular operation, we will write the particular command and slash slash we will put into the command line and then we will write that particular command. Second type of command is the block commands. Block commands are used mainly to block a block of code we want to comment. We can use the block command. So for example, more than 2-3 lines of code are there which we don't want to delete the code. We just want to comment it out so that we want to run a specific, it is causing an error. So we will block that code using a block command and we will comment out that particular code, and later down the line we have to remove the comment and reuse the code or something we have to do. So what is the main drawback with comments is if you put too much comments it will become very difficult to organize the code, understand the code. It will too less commenting also will cause problems. So efficient way is to write whenever comment when necessary. If some certain feature you are keeping it, so in certain way you are initializing an object or something, if we are doing it in a specific manner which is not usually done by people, so we have to put a comment to note that there is a special condition for that you have done that specific case. For now we have version control tools, everything which is available in the market, so we don't need to put comments everywhere. We have to put the comments when we commit or translate something into the version control system. At that time we have to put the comment, not into the everywhere in the code. We should not put the comment, only put the necessary comments. Next type of comment which we need to discuss is the javadoc comment. So javadoc comments means this is by definition Java will handle that particular type of comments. So when we prepare a documentation using Java documentation tool, if you create a documentation for your code, with the automatically this Java doc will fetch the particular comments and put it in the line with the class or the interface which we are defined. Along with that, the method also we can put Java comments. In that Java comment will come and we will be able to understand who has written the comment. These all features are not much necessary, but still people will use the Java standards
For example, if you go to any Java libraries, external libraries, if you go, there will be a page for their Java documentation, which will be in the Javadoc tool, created using the Javadoc tool. So here we will go for an example for this explanation. Thank you. In this section, we will cover about the program for comments in Java. So first we can see in the first line we have added a multi-line comments. Slash star star can be added into every single line to make it the code, the command look appear much better. This command is mainly used if you want to comment out specifics a part of the code and everything. Next type of command we will see here is the Javadoc command. Javadoc command is to have some annotations we have to provide at the rate author at the rate param means the parameter which we are passing to the particular method. This documentation tool can be found if you go to project and uh, go to the create annotation Java documentation. That feature if we go, then we can able to create the Java doc, and we can see that in Java doc all these HTML tags also will come. So if you put an HTML syntax and everything into the particular command, the HTML syntax such as bold, italics, everything will come into the Java doc command. So you can try it out. I'm not trying out in this session, but you can definitely try it out and go to project and create Java doc commands. So we have to select a particular folder where we want to create the Java doc, and we will be able to create the Java doc. So next thing which we need to mention here is the a different type of command is the line command. Here I am putting into the particular after the method calling time. I am putting the line command here. We can use slash slash and followed by the particular command to denote the particular calling of the particular method. So this method is just simply to print the particular message. We'll just run the program to see the output. So see, we have seen the output. And so in this session, we have discovered about comments in Java. We have seen the various different types of comments which are available. So it is very handy to use comments. You have to put only necessary comments in the code. We don't need to put everywhere the comments. Only when it is required, we have to use. And the tools such as Javadoc tools, everything we need to learn. And we have to go through the libraries. For example, if you go to docs.oracle.com, there you can find all the Java doc for a particular JDK version. So we will be able to understand the particular JDK version one by one. We can check out every classes and every methods there. So that is also created using the Java doc tool. So now let us wind up this session. Thank you for watching the tutorial. Please continue watching the next session. Thank you.